So imagine walking into your office tomorrow morning
Uh-huh.
and your boss just hands you back nearly your entire work week.
Just gives it right back to you.
Yeah, 33 hours. Like, here you go. Enjoy your time.
That's incredible.
It sounds like some kind of, utopian futuristic projection, right?
Yeah.
But according to this 2025 IDC research we are unpacking today, that is exactly what early adopters of what they call agentic AI are actually recovering per employee per week.
It really is wild to think about.
It is. So today we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of research by Jonathan H. Westover, PhD. And our mission here is to figure out how organizations are actually achieving this 33-hour miracle, I guess you could call it.
Right? The mechanics of it.
Exactly. And also why integrating these tools fundamentally changes what it means to be an employee today. Plus why companies that are, waiting around to adopt this are already facing this massive insurmountable disadvantage.
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the shift we're talking about. I
Yeah.
mean, we are really looking at the twilight of the whole industrial era way of working.
Traditional 9 to 5 grind.
Exactly. The way organizations create value, the way you as an employee actually sit down and get your work done, it's being rewritten in real time.
Yeah.
But to really grasp how companies are getting back almost an entire work week, we have to pull apart a term that gets thrown around a lot right now.
Agentic AI.
Yes. Because AI is just way too broad. We really need to look specifically at what an autonomous AI agent is
Yeah.
and how that is fundamentally different from the generative AI tools most people are already, used to playing with.
Right, right. And I think the easiest way to separate the two is to look at a kitchen.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, so generative AI, like your standard chat GPT or Claude, is basically like having a highly skilled sous chef standing right next to you.
Okay.
They're brilliant, they have amazing technique, but they only do exactly what you tell them to do. So you say, chop these onions, and they chop the onions perfectly.
But then they stop.
Exactly. They just stand there waiting for your next command. You still have to manage the whole recipe. But an AI agent is more like the executive chef.
Right, taking charge.
Yeah, you tell the agent, hey, we need to serve potato soup to 50 people tonight, and that's it. The agent checks the pantry, realizes you are out of onions, automatically orders more from the supplier, turns on the stoves, and just starts prepping the potatoes.
That's a great way to frame it.
It pursues a goal over time, right, without needing step-by-step instructions from you.
And that is the core distinction right there. Goal-directed autonomy. I mean, these agents, they're still powered by large language models, obviously, but they are wrapped in this software layer that allows them to actually perceive a digital environment.
You look around, essentially.
Yes, to look around, make decisions based on what they see, and then trigger actions in other software systems, and most importantly, adapt if they hit a roadblock.
Give me an example of that adaptation.
Well, say an agent tries to pull a customer file, right? But the database is locked or down. It doesn't just crash and wait for a human to type a new prompt.
Oh, right. It doesn't just throw an error code and give up.
Exactly. It might ping the IT desk for access, or maybe it searches an alternative CRM database and then it just continues its task. It is acting on its own.
Which is wild. And that brings us back to that 33-hour metric. Because when I first read that in Westover's research, my immediate thought was like, how much busy work are we actually doing?
A lot. A terrifying amount, honestly.
Right. But if you map out a typical Tuesday morning for an office worker, it actually makes total sense. An employee gets an email from a vendor. They have to download the attached PDF invoice.
Save it to the desktop.
Yeah, save it, open Salesforce, their CRM to check the vendor's account. Then they have to log into SAP or whatever their ERP is or core financial tracking system just to manually type those invoice numbers in.
Swapping between windows the whole time.
Exactly. And then finally, they send a Slack message to their manager to get it approved.
And all that manual navigation of those clunky enterprise apps, that is a massive drain on human capital.
Yeah.
In the industry, we call it context switching.
Context switch.
Yeah, because every single time a human moves data between isolated silos, time just bleeds away. Your focus gets broken. So the core insight from that IDC finding is that recovering those 33 hours isn't actually about the AI agent itself being super smart.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It is almost entirely about deep integration.
Oh, I see.
You cannot drop your smart executive chef into a kitchen where, the pantry doors are locked and the stoves aren't even connected to the gas line.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's unpack this because the research gives a very specific blueprint for how to do this right.
It does.
And it seems like a lot of companies are totally failing when they just deploy the AI first and think, we'll figure out the work later.
Oh, absolutely. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. So the organizations that are actually seeing these massive returns, they follow a really deliberate sequence. First, they unify the collaboration stack, meaning they bring their chat, video, documents, project management, all of it into one coherent platform.
Getting the house in order.
Yeah. And then second, they integrate their heavy business applications, those CRMs and ERPs we just talked about. And only after the environment is completely connected do they actually deploy the agents into it.
Because if you do it in reverse, you know what happens. You just end up buying a really expensive, isolated recommendation engine.
Just another tool to manage.
Exactly. If the agents can't read the data streams, and if they don't have the permissions to actually trigger actions in your financial software or your HR software, they are severely hobbled.
You're just giving you advice you have to act on manually.
Right. They just become another dashboard the human has to log into and check, which ironically actually adds to the context switching rather than solving it.
Let's look at the Siemens case study from the notes, because I think this perfectly illustrates what happens when the environment is fully integrated first.
Oh, this is a brilliant example.
Yeah, so Siemens didn't just add a little chatbot to their manufacturing operations. They embedded AI agents deeply into their digital twin platform. And for anyone listening who is unfamiliar, a digital twin is basically this highly detailed, real-time 3D simulation of their actual physical factory floor.
It's essentially a virtual mirror of the physical machinery.
Right. And because Siemens integrated the agents into this digital twin first, the AI isn't just sitting there analyzing historical data from last month. The agents are constantly monitoring the live production systems.
Every second.
Yeah, so if a physical pump on the floor starts vibrating at, say, a slightly abnormal frequency, the agent detects it immediately in the digital twin. It analyzes the anomaly, determines that the pressure needs to be reduced by 5% to prevent a breakdown, and here is the crazy part, because it has permission within these predefined safety bounds, it automatically adjusts the physical parameters on the actual factory floor.
On its own.
Yes, it manages the real-world manufacturing process in real time.
But see, if an AI agent is adjusting manufacturing parameters like that and completely removing the need for human operators to monitor those gauges all day, it forces a really uncomfortable question.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
About the humans who used to do that monitoring.
Right. And I want to lean into the pragmatist role here for a second, because we really have to talk about displacement. The elephant in the room.
We do.
If companies are magically recovering 33 hours a week per employee, the obvious corporate reflex isn't to say, hey, everyone, go home on Tuesday afternoon, enjoy your week.
No, of course not.
It's to look at the balance sheet and wonder why they are paying for that headcount at all. If agents are doing all the routine workflows, aren't companies just going to use this for massive headcount reductions?
It's a natural fear, right? I mean, we saw it with the assembly line, we saw it with robotics in the 80s.
Exactly.
But the research points to a very different strategic play happening right now among the leaders. It's this concept of augmentation over replacement.
Augmentation.
Yes. Organizations that simply use agents to hollow out their workforce just to save a few dollars in payroll, they're completely missing the much larger value creation opportunity.
I have to admit, I was actually highly skeptical of that whole augmentation claim.
It sounds a bit like corporate spin, right?
Totally. Until I read the Klarna case study in this stack.
Oh, the Klarna one is mind-blowing.
It is. So Klarna is this major financial services and payment firm. And they literally handed over 2/3 of their entire customer service conversation volume to AI agents.
2/3 of all inquiries.
Yes. And they achieved customer satisfaction scores that were equivalent to their human reps while massively slashing the time it took to resolve issues. So my first assumption, naturally, was that they must have just fired 2/3 of their customer service staff.
But they didn't.
No.
Klarna essentially took the robotic work out of the human's day. Because an AI agent is phenomenal at, looking up an account number, verifying an identity, or processing a routine refund.
The simple stuff.
Right. But what it cannot do is handle a distressed customer who just realized, say, their identity was stolen and they're panicking about making their rent payment.
Yeah, a chatbot cannot comfort someone who is crying.
Exactly. So Klarna redirected their human representatives to handle those highly complex cases, the ones that actually require deep empathy, nuance, and human judgment.
They basically took the reps off the password reset desk and put them on the crisis management desk.
That's exactly it. And that gets to this bigger idea in the research that the psychological contract between employers and employees is being fundamentally rewritten.
What do you mean by psychological contract?
Well, In the industrial era, the contract was really simple. You, the employee, provide reliable, repetitive effort on clearly defined tasks.
Like a cog in a machine.
Yes. And we, the employer, provide a steady paycheck. But today, in the intelligent era, automation must elevate the worker. It has to eliminate all that mind-numbing repetition so humans can finally focus on what actually makes them human.
Which is what?
Relationship building,
Yeah.
navigating ambiguity, deep critical thinking.
It reminds me of the invention of the spreadsheet,
Oh,
honestly.
that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, because when Excel came out, people thought accountants were doomed. But it didn't eliminate accountants, it just allowed them to stop doing basic arithmetic by hand all day and start doing high-level financial strategy.
It elevated the profession.
Right. But I will say there is a massive risk hidden in this transition that the text cautions against.
The skill atrophy problem.
Yes. If we are talking about eliminating all the basic routine work, how do junior employees ever learn the ropes if they never actually do the basics?
It's a huge issue.
Like, think about an airline pilot. If a pilot relies entirely on the autopilot system from day one and they never actually fly the plane manually in normal weather, they aren't going to have any idea how to land it when a severe storm knocks the sensors offline.
They won't have the muscle memory.
Exactly. So if the AI agent is doing all the foundational data entry and the basic spreadsheet analysis, how does a junior analyst ever develop the intuition to spot a deeply hidden flaw in the data?
And that is one of the most critical vulnerabilities highlighted in Westover's research. If an agent assumes too much responsibility too quickly, the junior staff completely lose their training ground.
Right, the sandbox is gone.
Yeah. And when the agent eventually encounters some novel situation it wasn't trained on, or, it hallucinates an incorrect financial model, the human overseer won't have the baseline expertise to realize something is wrong.
So how do companies fix that?
Well, leading organizations are addressing this by keeping humans in the loop very deliberately. They use agents as co-pilots that are actually required to explain their reasoning and show their work to the junior staff.
Oh, interesting. So it teaches them.
Exactly, rather than just acting as a black box that silently completes the task in the background.
Okay, but if we successfully navigate that, right, and humans are truly elevated to this high-value work, it completely breaks how we evaluate performance.
It shatters it.
Yeah, because if Klarna isn't measuring their customer service reps on, number of tickets closed per hour anymore, because the AI handles all the volume, how do they measure whether an employee is actually doing a good job? We can't manage what we don't measure.
We have to scrap the industrial era scorecards entirely. Measuring output per hour or pure task completion that made sense when humans were operating as cogs.
The factory mindset?
Right. In an intelligent, agent-driven workplace, judging an employee on their sheer volume of output is actively misleading. It completely misses the point of why we augmented them in the first place.
So what are the new scorecards?
Forward-thinking organizations are adopting completely new metrics. Things like customer outcome metrics, learning effectiveness, and innovation velocity.
Let's make that concrete. Let's look at the Stitch Fix example from the research.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, so they do those personalized clothing subscription boxes. Now, in the past, a human stylist's metric might literally just be boxes shipped per hour.
Pure throughput.
Right. But today, the AI agent handles the baseline routine matching. The agent looks at the massive data set and says, okay, this customer lives in Seattle, it rains in November, they buy a lot of blue Ek, automatically put a blue raincoat in the box.
It does the obvious math.
Exactly. So if the agent does all that, what is the human stylist actually doing, and how is management grading them?
Well, the algorithm handles the basic pairing, right? But the human is now tracked on metrics like styling creativity scores and indicators of surprise and delight.
Surprise and delight is a metric.
Yes. Because the human's job is to look at that baseline recommendation, the blue raincoat, and then maybe read the customer's recent note about an upcoming trip to Paris and add a very specific, unexpected vintage scarf to the box.
Ah, the human touch.
Exactly.
That's right.
The human brings the intuition that makes the customer feel truly understood. So the metrics have to shift from pure throughput to customer outcome and retention.
Another metric the research brings up is innovation velocity.
Yes, moving from idea to implementation faster.
Right. Because if you are a mid-level product manager trying to launch a new feature, your performance isn't based on how many hours you sat at your desk typing up a project proposal anymore.
No, nobody cares about the typing.
If your AI agent writes the initial code framework, compiles the market research from the CRM, and drafts all the beta tester emails,
Hmm.
your manager is evaluating how fast you move that feature from a raw idea to a live testable experiment.
But here's where it gets really interesting, connecting this to the bigger picture.
Okay, let's hear it.
Bringing up metrics like surprise and delight or innovation velocity reveals a massive challenge.
Subjectivity.
Exactly. Those metrics feel incredibly subjective to the employee compared to the old safe quota system. I mean, if my bonus depends on delighting the customer, but the AI agent messes up the baseline shipping logistics so the box arrives a week late.
The customer isn't going to be delighted no matter what scarf you pick.
Right, so doesn't this require massive transparency?
Oh, absolutely. It requires a level of transparency and governance we haven't really seen before in corporate environments. You need incredibly strict boundaries around what the AI agent is responsible for and what the human is responsible for.
And the research points to Kaiser Permanente in the healthcare sector as just a brilliant example of building those exact boundaries.
Yes, the medical stakes make this so clear.
Kaiser deployed agents to handle patient communications, right? Things like scheduling appointments, sending medication reminders, answering routine billing queries.
The administrative burden.
Yeah, and that alone recovers enormous amounts of time for the nursing and administrative staff. But they instituted incredibly strict governance rules to maintain trust in the system.
Because the agents are explicitly forbidden from engaging in any diagnostic discussions.
None at all.
If a patient replies to a simple scheduling text and says, hey, I want to change my appointment, but also my head is killing me and my vision is suddenly blurry, the system does not try to handle it.
He doesn't ask follow-up symptom questions?
Never. The moment a patient expresses distress or requires medical judgment, the agent immediately routes the conversation to a human clinician.
They prioritize patient well-being over sheer efficiency.
Exactly. The agent handles the logistics, the human handles the care. And having that explicit, transparent division of labor is what makes the system trustworthy for the employees.
Because if the clinical staff felt like the AI was going to accidentally give out bad medical advice, they would spend all their time double-checking the AI's work.
Which completely defeats the entire purpose of the 33 hours saved.
Yep.
Exactly. Transparency, strict governance, and the intentional redeployment of human effort, those are foundational to making this work.
Which brings us to the stakes of all this. Because we've defined the tech, we've walked through the integration blueprint, and we've talked about rewriting the metrics of human labor.
The whole landscape.
Right. But the most alarming part of Westover's research is the timeline. The window for competitive positioning here is narrowing faster than almost any technology cycle we've ever seen.
It really is. The transition to agentic AI is not like the transition to cloud computing, you know.
How so?
Well, with the cloud, you can wait 3 or 4 years, watch your competitors work out all the bugs, and then safely migrate your servers later. You can't do that here.
Yeah.
The IDC data shows that 48% of global organizations now view AI investments as beyond budget cuts.
Beyond budget cuts.
Yeah.
That phrase is incredibly telling to me.
It's huge.
Usually when economic headwinds pick up, experimental technology projects are the very first thing the CFO axes. But the market no longer views agentic AI as experimental. They are treating it as non-negotiable foundational infrastructure, right alongside cybersecurity and legal compliance.
Wow.
Even with current economic uncertainty, 51% of these organizations are actively increasing their IT spend specifically to secure these capabilities, because they understand the compounding advantage at play.
Let's break down that compounding advantage because I think it is the exact reason late adopters are in so much trouble right now.
It's the moat.
Yes. If you wait 3 years to deploy these integrated agents, it's not just that your competitor has slightly newer software than you. It's that early movers are actively training proprietary models on their specific organizational knowledge.
Just learning their DNA.
Exactly. If Company A deploys an agent today, in 3 years, that agent has learned from 3 million unique customer interactions. It knows the exact nuances of the company's supply chain. And furthermore, Company A's human employees have spent 3 years learning how to perfectly collaborate with their digital teammates.
And you cannot buy those 3 years of institutional maturity off a shelf.
You just can't.
When Company B finally decides to buy an AI tool in, say, 2029, their generic, out-of-the-box software will be competing against a deeply embedded, highly trained digital workforce that Company A has spent years refining.
The moat early adopters are building is made of proprietary data and deeply integrated workflows. It's not just code.
Right. Treating AI as a discretionary tool, like something neat for the marketing team to use for brainstorming rather than treating it as foundational infrastructure, is an existential threat to a business today.
The paradigm of work has permanently shifted.
It has. The intelligent era privileges organizations that can flawlessly blend autonomous software execution with distinctly human creativity and judgment. The organizations that figure out that balance first, they're going to completely dominate their sectors.
And that leads to a final, slightly provocative thought I want to leave you, the listener, with today.
Let's hear it.
We spent this entire deep dive analyzing business metrics, workflow integration, and competitive moats. But consider the actual people who are going to be filling your offices in the very near future.
The next generation.
Yeah. Generation Alpha and younger millennials already expect AI assistance as a baseline reality. To them, working alongside a digital teammate is as fundamental as expecting an office to have an internet connection.
It's just a given.
Exactly. So if your company treats agentic AI as a luxury or actively restricts it because you haven't figured out your data integration yet, you won't just lose to your competitors today. You will alienate the entire next generation of talent.
They won't stick around.
They won't even know how to function in a rigid industrial era environment that forces them to do their own routine busy work.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is. So ask yourself, are you ready for them?